Okay, good morning, everybody. So let us start today's discussion. So today we will change topics. So I know we haven't yet covered sort of a lot of examples of how to compute BC dimension, but we will change topics now. We will change into bias variance trade-off because that's an important thing that you must all know. But we will come back to the specific examples in tomorrow's class. So, on the classes, scheduled classes, whenever we have regular classes, those classes I will continue with bias variance trade-off, and the classes that I take additionally, on those classes I will cover some more examples of VC dimension, how to compute VC dimension, and things like that. Okay. So let's start. So I hope everybody can see my screen. Okay, so now, so we are going to start. So as we saw we have been studying under statistical learning theory, several different types of approaches. So we saw pack learning, right? And then we saw empirical risk minimization. And then, so pack learning was for classification, right? And noiseless. And then we saw things what is called as sample complexity. All of these things are important things in pack learning. In empirical risk minimization, we saw again this was for classification, so noisy. And then we took the specific example of 0-1 loss function. We saw what is meant by consistency of empirical risk minimization, right? And then we saw what is the VC dimension, right? So these things we saw. And I think few key things is if you are having number of data points 10 times the VC dimension, that's a thumb rule. It's not that it always holds, but if you have more than 10 times the VC dimension, then there is a hope that you will be able to learn the best in the bag, right? So that's what we saw. And then we also saw this kind of a inequality, right? So we saw R of H is less than Rn hat of H plus omega, which is like a factor which tells the complexity of the hypothesis class, right? Something like this. Okay, so something like this we saw. So perhaps I shouldn't even write the 2n. I should just, the most important point there is the H, right? The complexity. So this we saw. And then today we are going to continue. So these two parts, this is complete. So here in the empirical risk minimization framework, we have to compute VC dimension for different hypotheses and see how that is done. So that part is still pending. I will do that tomorrow. But today we will start a different topic, quite an important topic, which is called as bias variance trade-off. Okay. So, so this bias variance trade-off, we will see it will be applicable for regression. In the class we will talk about for regression, but this equally holds for other types of problems like classification, and all of the results that you see will continue to hold, right? So here again we will look at both noiseless and noisy versions. So both types we will see, and then we will understand what is bias variance trade-off, and then we will understand some remedies. Okay, what are all the techniques that we can use? One is called regularization. Okay, and then to determine what level of regularization we should do, we will also see what is called as validation. Okay, so these things you will see in future classes, but don't worry about it. I'm just laying the outline. Each of the topics will become clear as we go through them. Okay, so now one of the things that we must do is try to understand that why did we study bias variance trade-off as well as empirical risk minimization, because both of them essentially are talking about very similar things. So the way to understand this is like, if you are suppose there is a mountain, right? So if you want to go to the top, there may be two paths, one going this way and another one going this way, right? So they wind up in some other way and reach the top. This one is some other way and reaches the top. So the destination is the same, but each of the two different paths, the empirical risk minimization path and bias variance trade-off, will give you some more insights, a different insight than what you will get in the other path. Okay, so that's why we are looking at two different paths, but essentially the underlying learning continues to be the same. The takeaways of each of these approaches continue to be same. So now one things that we must do is we should now actually develop some new notation, unfortunately, but this is necessary because one thing is this material is kind of nicely covered in lectures by Abu Mustafa. Okay, so if you want to refer back, so you must be familiar with this notation as well. I will give you, so the ideas are still the same, but I will give you the equivalent notation of Abu Mustafa and what I have been following so far, and then we will make one-to-one correspondence and everything. So there will be some work that we need to do in terms of the notation, but you will understand what each of these things are anyway. So the first thing that we will do is first let's look at so what we learned, right? So learned model. So now we are in the regression world. So what in our previous notation for the empirical risk minimization, what was the notation here? Can someone tell me? Learned model based on n data samples. So then what is the next thing? So learned model is one, and then we also have best in the bag, right? And then okay, let's not go about best in the bag. Before that, we need to understand true risk, then empirical risk. Okay, so I need to hear something. So what is the notation that we use for empirical risk minimization?
HN hat.
HN hat, right? So this is what we HN hat star we said, but here we will be calling it as G of D, which is like the data set that is used to train. So this D is the same thing as we called as SN, which is Xi, Yi. Okay, I equal to 1 to n. So, so one important thing, both HN hat star and GD, both of them are random. Okay, so it's a random model. So why is it random? Can someone tell me why this is random?
Depends on SN or D.
Yeah, depends on SN or depends on D, right? So depending upon what data set is used to train, this will change. Okay, so then true risk, we called it as R of H, right? So for a given model, we called the true risk as R of H. So this was defined previously as expected value of loss of Y, H of X, right? So this is what we defined previously. Here, we will call it as E out. Okay. So this is anyway, I have told when I taught R of H also, I told you that this is the out of sample performance. This is the true performance that we need. But now explicitly, we will be calling it as E out. Okay. So for example, if I do E out of GD, okay. If I do E out of GD, so GD is the best model that I learned from my learning algorithm. So does everybody see that this is a random quantity?
Yes, sir.
So now, if we really want to compare, we may have to take an expectation over D of E out. Okay, so this to get like some sense of how good a particular model is, we will have to take an expectation over all the possible ways in which you can get the data sample. Okay.
Wait, sir, wasn't risk itself an expectation over loss?
So risk was an expectation over the loss. That's right. So here this is continues to be the same. So this is also the same definition. Okay, L of y of h of x. All I'm saying is if I take instead of h of x, if I plug in hn hat star, right? So if I plug in gd, for instance, so since gd is random, e out will be random.
So we are basically with this the outer expectation we are taking overall risk or something.
Over all the data samples, how I could take, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So then empirical risk we called it as Rn hat of h. So this was 1 over n summation L of yi h of xi. Okay, so I equal to 1 to n. Here we are going to call it as in of h, in of g, because we will be using g for calling our model. Okay. All right, so it's really not that difficult. The things that I have explained while explaining empirical risk, I called it also the data error or in-sample performance. I have been repeating myself in that point. I hope this will not be too much of a transition. So, so what is the, why did we do all these changes? There are dual reasons. One, if you want to refer to some textbooks such as Learning from Data, Abu Mustafa's, or if you want to look at Bishop chapter 3, bias variance trade-off, some of the notations used is E in and E out. So this will be more convenient when you read those parts. And nevertheless, if you want to really do some self-study, many people often interchangeably use this. So you need to get some kind of familiarity with the different notations. All right, so nothing really has happened. So let's try to understand what is it that we would like to do. Okay. So in the bias variance trade-off, what we will start is we will fix our resource. Okay, so our resource here, resource is basically the data set D. Okay, and the cardinality of the data set, we will fix it as N. Okay, and what we will try to do is we will try to measure the performance of a bag, which is H. So then, so the goals are very similar. Okay, then first is this, and then second is measure the performance of a bag. So it's the goals are very, very similar, but yeah, so but you will see that the way we tackle this problem is going to be a little different. Okay, so first the whole setup is in regression, and we will only be looking at loss function, which is square loss, right? LMS, least mean square loss. Okay, so this is what we will do. So now, so our model is as follows. Okay, so the regression model. So what are all the things that come in for the regression model? First is, the first most important thing is you are given samples D, right? Which is x1, y1, okay, x2, y2, all the way till xn, yn. So this is the samples that is given to you. Now, what is the underlying model that generated this sample? That is like this, right? So that is the unknown target. So unknown target plus possibly some noise. Okay, so what you will have is y. Okay, so you'll have y is equal to f of x plus some epsilon. So if you remember, if you remember when we saw the model for regression a long time back, so we had something like this also we had studied. So there was x on x like this, and then there was y, and then we said the model is like there is a Gaussian variation along W transpose X plus epsilon. So the Y is given by W transpose X plus epsilon. So all I'm saying is W transpose X plus epsilon was one model where the underlying model was linear. But in real life, if you want to assume that there is some way in which your model Y's are coming, so that can be like some unknown function f of x plus some epsilon, right? Some noise. Now, how are the x's coming? So the x's are coming from some some sampling. Okay, so this is p. There is a probability distribution p on x. So this is feature space, right? So this will feed into this. Okay, so you have several samples x1 to xn you will apply this where epsilon, this portion is some noise. Okay, so the example that we saw when we studied regression, this was, we chose this as normal, right? If you remember. Okay, so this is what we do, and then we have a learning algorithm. So we have a learning algorithm. So the learning algorithm that we can think of may be like a gradient descent type of a learning algorithm. And to that, we need to tell what is the hypothesis set we are using, right? What degree of polynomial am I using? Things like that. Okay. So, and then of course, learning algorithm also takes into input the loss function. So loss function tells how to compute what is the gradient. So this is an example, okay? Let me not write that gradient there. You will think that it is something. So learning algorithm. Then there is a hypothesis set H. Okay, and at the end of learning algorithm, what you are hoping is that whatever you obtained, GD, okay, should be as close to F as possible. So let's try to take a small difference, like try to compare and contrast with what we did for pack learning. Okay, so when we did for pack learning, right, there was pxy joint distribution, okay, which is px into py given x. So what this said is, given an x, there is some uncertainty as to what values of y you can have, right? The way to understand this is that you have like a heights distribution, and then you have two genders. Given a particular value, this value can come from both male as well as female, right? So that is why there is some uncertainty here. So this was the way in which we handled, so not pack learning, I'm sorry. This is in the empirical risk minimization framework that we were studying. This is how we addressed how noise comes in. Here, the noise is coming in as an additional disturbance on the true target, right? This is what we would like to learn, but the epsilon can actually deviate from f of x. So that makes our problem a little more complicated. Okay. Other than that, probability on the feature space, that continues to hold. All right. So is the learning model clear? So this is nothing new. You have already seen this. I'm writing this specifically down because I want you to really understand that we will now start talking in terms of these values. Okay, the way things are different is, one is this. Here y is now f of x plus epsilon. Previously it was p of y given x. And other than that, more or less everything continues to hold. Everything else you have already seen. Okay. And then I will, instead of calling it as R and Rn hat, I will be calling it as E out and E in. Okay. All right. So this is the way in which we will change things little bit. Okay. So, all right. So now what we will try to do is we will study a specific case of sinusoids. Okay, so yeah. So now we will look at, let me just go here itself. Okay. So now, okay, before this, let me do something else as well. So if I take, let me just take a simple example. So example, right? So basically, let us look at an example where there is a underlying model and some Gaussian distributions, Gaussian like noise, right? So this is my W transpose X. This is my W transpose X, which is telling what is the thing that I would like to learn. This is X and this is Y. Suppose my resource, I'm only going to get 2 data samples, right? So let us assume that way. So sometimes what can happen is that I can get a data point like this, right? I can then also get a data point which is like this, right? So these are the 2 data points I'm getting. So this is X1, Y1, and this is X2, Y2. Okay, so whenever I have, suppose these are the 2 data points I have got, and if I try to really learn that, so what is the thing that I will learn? So I will get something like this, right? So this is my learned model. So you can see, so this is GD, the best I can learn from these 2 data points. Sometimes, depending upon the data points, it can be bad, right? So let me take the same case, but something which is favorable. So if I take points like this, okay, and if I have, let's say, something like this, and if I try to learn now, if I try to find GD, so I will get a much better hypothesis, right? At least it looks more promising than the other one, right? So this is Y, this is X. It's the same thing, but what has happened is the data points that I'm getting are completely different, right? The noise that the terms are there, that is different. So, but it continues to hold that I'm only having 2 data points, and sometimes it can be very bad. It can completely drastically change, and sometimes it cannot. It will be okay, right? So now, so is there? Yeah. So given 2 data points, sometimes it is favorable, sometimes it is not favorable, right? I hope that is clear. So basically, what I'm trying to say is if I measure E out of GD, right? This is not really going to be E out of GD. Remember, this is same as R of GD, right? So depending upon which GD I get, whether I get this GD or whether I get this GD, the E out may change drastically. So if you want to compare 2 different hypothesis bags, it is not a good idea to just look at one particular instantiation of your GD. So you better take an expectation, right? So you better take an expectation over the data points. Okay. So this is what we will do. So this is one. So if I have to compare 2 different hypotheses, what I am going to do is I am going to compare these numbers. So this number for H1 bag and this number for H2 bag, and whichever is lesser, I will use that bag. Okay. So that is the understanding that I wanted to first make it clear. So point number 1. Then point number 2. Okay. So if I again go back to this example, right? So let's again go back to the same example. So this is W transpose X plus epsilon, right? And depending upon what sample I get, I will get several points like this. Right? Depending upon whichever samples I get, which 2 samples I get, I will have so many different possible lines. Okay. So now what we can do is we can talk about if we had taken an average of all these points, right? So if we had taken an average of all these points, that is like our mean hypothesis, right? So mean hypothesis we can think of. So mean hypothesis, what is the mean hypothesis? If I had all these lines and if I took the average, right? So if I take expected value over GD itself, okay, if I do that, this is my mean hypothesis. This I will call it as G bar of X. Okay. So this is like your, if you want to compute this using experiments, what you can do is you can compute, you can draw several samples D1, D2, up to some DM, okay, and then G bar, your estimate, is equal to 1 over M summation G di of X, I equal to 1 to M. So this will give me what is my mean hypothesis. This is like my like average, so to speak, in my bag. This is like an average in my bag. Okay. So there are these two concepts that we have discussed, and both of them are very important. So I hope all of you have understood these two. Okay. So can I quickly check at this point if people are following? Yes? No?
Sir, I had a doubt in the notation.
Yes, yes, Siddharth.
Sir, we mentioned that true risk is same as E out.
Yes.
And then I didn't understand then if that is actually the true risk, then that is over the data outside, like in the outside world. So why are we taking then again expectation over data on E out?
Okay, good question. Okay, so now what I'm saying is that in the previous thing, we never took an expectation of R of H, right? The reason we didn't take an expectation, the H was not considered as random. Okay, now if you take like GD itself, what model you are learning, that will change drastically depending upon what data samples I have. So Siddharth, did you understand that these two examples, what it is conveying?
No, sir, not quite.
Okay, so what I'm saying is, if let us say the true underlying model is W transpose X plus some Gaussian noise. Okay, so that is the true underlying model. Now I am the fellow who is going to give you points, and you are supposed to train and give me the model. Okay, what I will do is when I draw samples for you, Siddharth, I will give you these 2 points. Okay, you will get these 2 points. Whereas when I try to draw same 2 points for some other person, maybe I try to take 2 points for Rajneesh. When I take 2 points for Rajneesh, I will give him these 2 points. So you will train your model and you will tell this is this black line, you will tell this is your best that you can learn from these 2 points. Rajneesh will come and tell this is the thing, right? So who is doing better? Siddharth?
We can't say who's doing better.
No, but see, we wanted to learn this red thing. That is the true underlying thing that we wanted to learn. We want to be as close to that as possible. But the epsilon noise, because of that, some person sometimes will do very badly, right?
Yes, sir. So yes, sir. Got it.
Yeah. So GD, depending upon the points that I'm drawing, it is a random quantity. So when you get something like this, this will be the thing. When someone else does it, it will be like this, right?
Yes, sir.
So now when I do expected value, sorry, when I do E out of GD, what is the error? It is like this shaded region, right? This is the shaded region. This is the error that we are getting for just the E out. Okay, so this is E out of GD1. Okay, and this shaded region is E out of GD2. Okay, so this in turn is of course expectation over, this is anyway, this is like expectation over X, right? So depending upon how expectation over X, loss of Y H of X, right? So this is, so here the loss is F of X. So we will do F of X minus H of X whole square. Okay, let me write this a little more slowly and carefully. Here, E out of GD2 is given by expected value over X, right? GD2 of X minus f of X whole squared. Okay, and here it is the same thing, but instead of GD2 I have GD1. So do you understand that this quantity expected value of GD2, right? E out of GD2, this is random because depending upon what data sample I get, it will change. Siddharth?
Yes, sir.
So if see, you got much less, you got a much higher error, whereas this person got much lesser error. So somebody else will get some other error, right? So E out of GD2 itself is random. So if you want to compare two different hypotheses back, you better take into account the randomness that is coming due to sampling.
Yes, sir. Mhm.
So that is why we are doing expected value over the data set E out of GD we are taking. Okay. So that is why we have to compare two different hypotheses back on the expectation of the data that you can get, the samples that you may get, right? Okay.
So here the goal is between comparing two bags.
Yes, two bags. So I'm telling you, right? So the whole, at the end of the day, you are going to get to the same top, but you are going to see different things here compared to what you saw in the other things. That's all. But you are going to get to the same point. Okay.
Okay, sir. Yes, sir.
So I'm just developing the notation so that we can just get into that. So that's why I'm explaining these things. So we have not yet started our journey. We have just trying to lay the groundwork. Okay. So now, Siddharth, did you follow what is this G bar?
Yes, sir. Now I follow.
Okay. So let me just again quickly check in the chat if people are following. So your questions definitely helps. Thanks a lot, Siddharth. Okay. So is it clear to people now after his questions?
So,
Yeah.
so I'm actually doubtful about the G dash.
Okay. What is the question?
Like, so I,
G.
so like I cannot correspond this to the in the previous case. Like what it says about the data. Like what we are doing is that we have different datas, different samples that we have, and then what we want is the expected value of that loss
Yes.
over all the
Yes.
samples.
Yes. This you understood, right?
Yes, sir. I understood this.
Yeah. So now this G bar is a conceptual quantity. It is not that we will ever get this. Okay.
Okay.
So the purpose is like if you want to say what is the best chance, see if I do a coin toss, okay, of an unbiased coin, Ankit. Okay, so I have an unbiased coin. I do 100 coin tosses. What do you think is the most likely value you will get? Yes, 100 coin tosses. What is the most likely value you will get? Yeah, you'll say 0.5, right? You will say your probability is 0.5. But I am claiming that you will never get 0.5. Correct?
Yeah, most probably we won't.
You will never get it. It's not most probably. You do it if you want, but you will never get it. If you want, I will make your life to ensure that you never get. I will do 99 coin tosses. What will you say if I say 99 coin tosses, Ankit? What will you say now?
We will never get that.
But it is 0.5, right? Your best guess is 0.5. Okay. So that in the same way, even though we can never get G bar in real life, but our best guess, the best in our bag is the expectation. Okay. The expected value of GD.
Okay, sir.
Do you understand the analogy?
Yes, sir, I got it.
Okay, very good. Again,
Sir, I have a small.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sir, that G bar on the left hand side and the G bar on the right hand side are different, right? Because on the right
I did want to put a hat.
Hat and M also.
Yeah, I didn't want to make all of you cry by putting more notation. Okay, so please I will abuse little bit notations. Okay, but you understand this is if you want Siddharth, we will just make it approximate. Okay.
Yes.
See
sir.
this. See the idea sometimes is simple, but the notation makes you feel like it is a very complicated entity. Okay, but again, very good question. Important that you ask this. Thanks again. All right, very nice. Okay, so any other questions from folks? Okay, good. So let us move on. Okay, so very nice. So what we wanted to do was expected value over all the data set. Okay, E out of GD we wanted to do, right? GD of X. Now, yeah, so expected value of GD of X, we know what that is, right? So we know that it is expectation over X. Okay, so this is GD of X minus F of X whole squared. Okay, so this is just the definition. This is the loss function. F of X is what you would like to learn, how far you are different from each of the things. Okay, so there is one additional term. I conveniently missed it, so let me put that. The y is coming with a noise term also, right? So it is, if you remember, the loss function is the least mean square loss is what? So it is W transpose X. So W transpose X was what our learning model gave. So you can say G of X minus Y whole squared expectation, right? So this is the least mean square. G is what is our model, Y is what we have got, right? Whereas Y itself, if you come back to our learning model, Y was equal to F of X plus epsilon, right? So in that way, there is an epsilon term as well. Okay, so let's just try to simplify this and let us see finally once for all what is the bias variance trade-off, how does it appear in this kind of a situation. So we will do the full generality and then you will see. So now the first thing that we will do is we will interchange these two terms. Okay. And then the next thing that we will do is we will add and subtract G bar. Okay, so this is this I will think of as A, this is B, and this is C. Okay, so what is A plus B plus C whole squared? What is the thing? Very algebra question. Yes, what is it?
Sir, A squared plus B squared plus C squared plus 2AB plus 2BC plus 2CA.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, thanks for answering very silly questions also. Appreciate it. Okay. Right, so this is, we will write this and we will write all the cross terms. So I want all of you to pay attention because I may make a mistake. Oops. See. Yeah, so one thing that I missed to mention here, you have to also consider epsilon. Okay, because depending upon epsilon, somebody may get this or somebody may get this, right? So epsilon is also important. Okay, if epsilon is more, this can get even more skewed. So we have to account for epsilon as well. So I missed adding that, but let's put it. Then 2 epsilon g bar of x minus f of x plus gd x minus g bar x 2 times into what is the thing left, g bar x minus f of x.
So those two terms with epsilon should be negative because there's minus epsilon.
Yeah, correct, thanks. Anyway, those all will vanish, so we will not have any problem, but we will put it because you are right. Okay, so these are all the terms that are here. Okay, so now we will try to open the expectation. Okay, so first thing is the first term, second term, third term, right? So we will write it as expected value over x that we will keep. Okay, so gd bar minus g bar. Okay, so g bar is like your average. Okay, and gd is your what to say, this is your random variable. Okay, random variable minus average whole squared. What is that?
Variance.
Yeah, so this will be, so there is an x that we still need to take, but it is a variance of x, right? See, epsilon has no role in this. Epsilon is not affecting gd like directly. It is affecting it in terms of the how gd changes, but once you fix a gd, epsilon will not play a role, right? Once d is fixed, epsilon doesn't play a role. Okay,
So how did you get variance of x? Variance of g of x?
yeah. So how do I say, variance of my h hypothesis bag, is that okay?
Yes, sir.
See, because gd of x is a member from my hypothesis bag, this is the average hypothesis, this is one member, so I will put a variance of over in the hypothesis bag. Is that okay, Rohit?
Yes.
Okay, now the second term, if you see, this is telling how much my average hypothesis is differing from the underlying target, right? How much this difference is coming. Okay, so this we will call as bias. Again, I will put an H just to indicate that it is this G bar is associated with the hypothesis bag under question. Okay, then epsilon square, right? What is epsilon square for if epsilon is a zero mean noise random variable? What is epsilon square?
Variance.
Variance, right? So this is like the noise variance. I will write that. Okay, so then let us just see what is it we are saying. The expected value of E out has 3 components: variance, bias, and the noise variance, that is the epsilon variance. And then we have to see what happens to the cross terms. Okay, so when you look at cross terms, here the first thing is let me just, I'm just saying that all the 3 cross terms are 0. Okay, first let's do that. And then when I take expectation, what I will get is variance of H, okay, plus bias of H plus noise. So this is the final bias variance trade-off thing that I would like to say in this thing. So the total expected value of E out of GD of X, right? So this is given by this. So, but before that, we have to still satisfactorily prove that each of these quantities are actually 0, right? So we will do it one at a time. I know some of you may be feeling a little queasy because it is, why is it? We will see a solid example which will make this extremely clear. Okay, so not to worry. So this is expected value of D and epsilon. Okay, so now what happens is epsilon and D, they are different things. So once you have fixed that they don't interact, so you can, this over the joint can split into expectation. Like since they are independent, you can split it. Okay, so this will become expectation dE of epsilon and expectation dE of this, right? So this is equal to 2 times expectation over epsilon and expectation over, so you can split it like this, okay? So now this term goes to 0 because the mean, the noise has 0 mean. I didn't mention it, but the noise component here is assumed to have 0 mean. Okay, and variance is sigma squared. Okay, so if you want, when we do here, this will come as noise variance, which is sigma squared. Okay, so now once we look at this, so this term goes to 0, and here in this term, this is a constant. So when I take the expectation over the data set, this is a constant. Okay, and this expectation is also G bar. So whole term goes to 0. So this is the first term. So please stop me if you're not following any of these steps. Otherwise, I will just continue quickly. So now the second term. Okay, in the second term, this entire thing is a constant as far as D and epsilon is concerned, because G bar is like an average over all the data set. This is a constant, f of x is constant. So this whole thing comes out. And expected value of 2 epsilon is 0. So this is also 0. And finally, the last term. Okay, so again, this is a constant, it comes out, and the expectation d epsilon, the epsilon doesn't affect this. So this will become expectation of GD of x minus G bar of x, which is a constant. So this becomes G bar minus G bar is 0. So this gets 0. Okay, so essentially what we have shown, the expected value is a sum of variance plus bias plus noise. Okay, so this is what we have shown. Now, to really do understand this much better, we will take an example, a very important example. Okay, so we will take.
Sir, actually, I have a doubt.
Yeah.
With that. Sir,
Yeah.
just the very first term, variance of about which Rohit was also asking. Sir, I didn't still understand how that is not the variance of GD, and it is the variance of.
It is the variance of GD, but GD is what? It is the average in my bag, right? So I can say H. The hypothesis bag will control what GDs I get, right?
Sir, but GD isn't the average of all. GD is just the best one, right?
Yeah, so but that is coming from my bag, right? So it's either W transpose X if it is linear. If it is SVM, it may have some high dimensional kernel and all those things. So it is basically something from my bag. My bag controls what GD it can learn, right? My learning algorithm and the bag together will control it.
Sir, but I don't understand what it means when we say that variance of a bag.
So variance, it's not a variance of a bag. What I'm saying is it's some variance that all of us understand. Okay. It depends on the X that we are choosing, correct? It's like I'm evaluating it as some fixed X. So it's a function of X, it's a variance. Now question is, what do you want to call it? You can call it just variance of X. But then you will think X is a random variable, you're taking the variance of that, right? But instead, we are just saying the bag is what changes this term. For a particular thing, you will have one variance. For a different bag, you'll have another variance, like that.
Okay.
So you will see an example and then it will get much better.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But each of these things are clear to you? All of these things, why it is 0 and everything?
Yes, sir. The rest of the things are clear.
Okay, so let us take an example and then you will understand. Okay, so now let us fix y is equal to sine of pi x. Okay, and plus epsilon, which is 0. Epsilon, okay, set epsilon equal to 0. So what is this? This is called as a noiseless sinusoid, right? It's a noiseless sinusoid. Okay, and x itself, it takes a value -1 to 1 uniform. Okay, and my data set, okay, is 2 points drawn from this. Okay, so the cardinality of my data set is 2. Okay, so Siddharth, now this example, you have y. I am giving you 2 points. I have to learn it, right? And the model I am choosing is sine of pi x. So what would you think we should? I am saying now we have some choices. Okay, so h1, the choice number 1 is constant. What is the best constant that I can learn? So that is constant hypothesis. What is the best constant I can learn so as to minimize the error, right? So I will use a constant hypothesis. This is my bag 1. And in H2, I will use a linear hypothesis. So let me just give an example. So let's draw this. So this is my my sinusoid. I'm giving you 2 points. So let us say these are the 2 points I will pick. Now, what is the best constant hypothesis that fits these 2 points? That is going to be the line that is going to go between them. Right? So this is for the constant hypothesis. Same 2 points if I apply for a linear, right? I will get this line. Let me just draw it a little. Yeah. Okay. So this is yeah. So what? So now as an example, right? So I would like to evaluate ED of E out for these 2 hypothesis bag. One is the constant hypothesis. Another one is a linear hypothesis. Okay, and then we will, for each of this example, we will see what is the variance term, what is the bias term, and what is the noise term. Noise term, anyway, I have set it equal to 0 because I have set epsilon equal to 0. Okay, so we will only look at a noiseless model and we will try to compare. Okay, so let us try, before we will do this exercise on maybe we will do this on Tuesday when we meet next in a regular class. Tomorrow we will use, tomorrow I'm taking a special class from 2 to 3. We will look at VC dimension examples. Okay. So, but this particular analysis on different bags, how the bias variance trade-off comes, we will look at in the Tuesday class. Okay. But any case, before we go there, can we just try to understand what do you feel, which of the 2 hypotheses is better fitting this equation? What do you think? Which of the 2 is better to fit a sinusoid? Can I just do a quick poll? So if you don't understand the question, please put a question mark. Okay. Otherwise, you can. Yeah. Yes, Rohit. What is it?
So can you kindly repeat the question?
So the question is, I am giving you an underlying model y is equal to sine of pi x, okay, and plus epsilon. Epsilon is a noiseless sinusoid. Now there are only 2 bags that you can use. Okay, the 2 bags are either it's a constant hypothesis or it's a linear hypothesis. Okay, you have to learn a sinusoid with a constant or a linear hypothesis. Okay, and I would like to compare your 2 bags based on your expected value of E out. I will compare each of these. If you choose constant, I will compute this number for your bag, and if you use linear, I will again compute the number for your bag. I will show you what is the variance, bias, all those things we will do. But I would like to know from your just understanding of the model, what is it that you think will be minimizing the expected value of E out for these 2 hypotheses? That is my question. Do you understand, Rohit?
Yes.
So, okay, so I have 3 answers, linear, and Aditi also says H2 bag. So if you, Rohit, do you, linear question mark you have said, don't you understand the setting?
No, I understood I mean, I think it will be linear, but
okay. Okay, good. Let us see other people, what they are saying. Okay. What about others? I need at least participation in the chat. Come on. Others? How about Devyani? What do you think?
So actually, I don't know.
Okay. Okay. All right. So let us first understand another simple question. Even before going to this, okay. Suppose look at this problem. Problem 2. Okay. Problem 2 is I am telling you y is equal to some 10th degree polynomial. Okay. 10th degree polynomial. Okay. And I will give you, let's say, three points from it. Okay. So y is a 10th degree polynomial. I will give you 3 points from it. Let me ask you the question like h1 is linear. Okay. And h2 is 10th degree. Okay. So again, we may ask similar question as to which of the two does better. Okay. So actually it turns out we will show it properly in the next class. Okay. So for the problem number 1, we will show that constant hypothesis is a better learning algorithm. And for P2, we will show that linear is a better thing. Okay. So this is something that we will see in the next class. Okay. So the idea is whenever you are given some resources, your model complexity should match the resources that is given. Okay. So for a linear model, you are learning 2 parameters. For a constant model, you are learning 1 parameter. From our VC dimension theory, we know that we should not have too many parameters to learn. Otherwise, in the complexity term, there will be a penalty, right? In the same way, we will see in this model as well that the variance will be very high when you use linear hypothesis. Okay, so that we will do through a demo in the next class. So this will be on the Tuesday class. Okay, so that's what we will do there. And this one I will leave you to check, but linear will be a better model. You can check. Okay, so this is again noiseless. So we will do this in the next class. So yeah, so I think we are done here. Are there any questions? If you want to have and ask any questions, you can stay back and you can ask. Otherwise, we will continue on Tuesday. All right. Okay, thanks. So linear is not the correct hypothesis. It's constant. Okay, so we will see why on Tuesday. So this is an important problem. I mean, this is a most practical problem that you will face. Right? Choice of hypothesis given the model complexity. So you will see that in the next class. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.